Hello everyone, my name is Ankit Jain and I welcome you to my channel Take Journey with Ankit. In today's video, we will be discussing about one of the integration pattern, that is the request and the reply pattern. As I said in the previous video, we have started this playlist where we will be discussing all the integration patterns one after the other. In case you didn't got a chance to check out my previous video, I will put the link in the video description. Do check that out where I have given the overview of the different integration patterns that we do have and what all factors do impact those integrations as well. Now, in case you folks like to have one-to-one connect with me, or in case you do have any queries that you want to discuss, you will also get the top mate link in the video description. If you navigate there, here you do have an option for one-to-one connect where you can book a session for one-to-one connect. And moreover, you can also explore few of the GTL products which are available on the top mate, like the LWC Node Guide. And one of the most popular here is the interview question guide. This interview question guide have more than 500 plus interview questions, and for all those interview questions, we do have the detailed solution as well. This guide will have the questions for the admin, Apex, LWCs, integration flows, scenario based question, coding based question. Everything will be available in one single guide. Moreover, you can also explore few of my Udemy courses. I do have the Udemy courses based on the data cloud. I do have the Udemy course based on the Agentforce. And I also have the Udemy course which talks more about the real world implementation of the Salesforce project, where I will be elaborating how you can start from the scratch whenever you will be assigned to any project and build the complex system like the car rental management system. All the courses have one thing common. All of them are fully hands-on courses. You will not only understood the theoretical part of it, but you will also get the hands-on experience of exploring the topic as well. Now coming to the pattern that we have to discuss today. First one, this is the first pattern that we are discussing, which is referred as the request and the reply pattern. So request and the reply pattern, it's more a synchronous integration pattern where a Salesforce invokes a process on the remote system. So the first keyword that you have to understand here is it's a synchronous pattern, right? Where what the Salesforce is doing, Salesforce is invoking the process on the remote system. So this pattern typically comes into the consideration whenever you are working on the outbound integration. And your outbound integration, it should be a synchronous based integration. So whenever you are doing the outbound integration and the business ask here is it should be synchronous. Synchronous means nothing but it should be in a real time. You are sending the request and you should get the response, right? In such scenarios, you should go for the request and the reply pattern. Typically, you should go for this kind of a pattern, as I said, whenever you are guaranteed, whenever you have a confirmation or you have a knowledge that your process will be finished within a limited set of time, right? Then and then only you should go for this kind of a pattern. Moreover, there are few other factors that you should always consider before you make the decision to go for the request and the reply pattern, like the volume of the data, volume of the payload, right? I will talk about all those considerations down the line. So this kind of pattern is typically used whenever, as I said, you require the immediate response from the external system. When is used to make the update within the Salesforce transaction. For example, you have initiated something from the Salesforce into the external system. Whatever the response that you are getting from that external system, you have to update that response back in the same transaction within the Salesforce system as well. If you want this to and fro should be happening within a one single transaction, then you should go for the request and the reply pattern. So one of the example that I would like to put up here, for example, your business do use the Salesforce to track the leads, manage their pipeline, create opportunities, capture orders, and basically everything that needs to be done typically by any Salesforce CRM. But what they are doing after the order details has been captured in the Salesforce, here they are using another system, let's say an ERP system or any other CPQ based system that they are using, where they are creating the orders in their remote system. That remote system can be any external system. And if the remote system operation is successful, they want to synchronize the order status and the order number back into the Salesforce. Right? So basically what they are doing, they are initiating the one of the business process in the Salesforce. They are handing over that business process to the remote system. Once the remote system perform the operation, whatever the status and the order number that the remote system is returning, they are updating it back into the Salesforce. Right? So what they are doing in the same transaction, this is kind of a very important keyword. Here we are not changing the transaction. In the same transaction, we are navigating to the external system, right? External system will do their API work. API, the external system will send the response back, and in the same transaction, we'll also be updating the Salesforce record as well. So whenever you do have that kind of a requirement, in such scenarios, you should go for the request and the reply pattern. Now, here I have put few questionnaires that you should definitely have an answer before you go for this implementation. So typical kind of questions that you should be asking either to your architects, or you should have a more understanding of this particular FAQs before you go and implement this pattern. The first one here is, does the call to the remote system require Salesforce to wait for a response before continuing the processing? Like this is something which is mandatory that Salesforce needs to wait before they go and process. Is it something can be achieved with the help of asynchronous transaction? Typically, we always prioritize asynchronous transaction over the synchronous in the integration practice. The reason being, we will have a better governor limits there whenever we work on the integration pattern. Typical question, or the second question here is the call to the remote system a synchronous request and reply, or it can be done with the asynchronous request as well? The third one here is, if you are calling to the remote system is synchronous, does Salesforce have to process the response as a part of same transaction, or is there any way where we can go and process the response later as well? The more question that you ask, you will have a better understanding whether you have to go for this particular pattern or not. What is the message size? Because for this particular pattern, it has been recommended that we should always go for the small message size. Next one here is the integration based on the occurrence of a specific event? Typically, we go and implement this kind of a pattern whenever we do have the business requirement that as soon as I have clicked the button, the order should be created in the external system, right? And the order status should be updated in the Salesforce. Whenever you do have that kind of typical requirement, there and then only you should think about the request and reply. But again, it is your responsibility also to help the business user understand Salesforce do have the capability to execute the transaction in the background as well, or as a part of asynchronous transaction as well. Because most of the time I have seen, based on my personal experience, business don't know. They only thinks that the things always works in a real time. So it is our responsibility, being a technical, that we should help them understand there are few things that can happen in the asynchronous way as well. Again, still the business wants the process should be running in the synchronous way only, then yes, this is the option that you can go for. So as I said, here you have to understand whether the operation should happen on the button click or on the DML base. Because if it is DML based event, then you don't have any other option, but you have to go for the asynchronous approach, right? Because after you are performing the DML, you cannot make the callouts in the same transaction. Salesforce will give you the error there. Next one here is the remote endpoint able to respond to the request with the low latency as well? If that is the answer, if the answer is yes, then you can also think about this solution. And finally, which is again very important, how many users are likely to be executing this transaction during a peak period? Because this is where you are understanding whether the external system is capable to handle the load, or all the requests that are going to the external system, whether they are capable to go and process all those requests or not. Because in case in a peak period you do have lots of requests, because this is a synchronous way of doing the work, lot of the requests will be in the queue, and there's a high probability that your transaction will time out. So you do have the better understanding, like what is the volume of transaction that we are expecting during the peak period. Now, let's say you are having a discussion with your team and you come to a conclusion that you have to go for the request and the reply pattern. Now I will be talking about if you have to go and implement this pattern, what all different approaches that you should be considering. So I'll be talking about the best approaches, and then also I'll be talking about the average kind of an approach that you can think of. So very first thing that you should think of, the integration that you have to do, if that integration can be achieved with the external services. External services means there are many services which are available which do support the open API specification or the YAML schema. You can invoke all these kind of an API services from your flow directly. And the good part here is you don't have to write down any code as well, right? In case your external system do supports open API or the YAML, then the first approach for the implementation that you should think of is the flow who will be invoking this external service. But let's say you don't have an external system which are having the external services. With another approach that you can think of, designing the custom UI interface, right? Where rather than you will be doing the integration based on the DML event, you will go and define the custom user interface. You can do that with the help of Lightning component. You can do that with the help of a flow. It's completely your choice, right? And then you should go and initiate the Apex transaction. Again, in case you folks have followed my LWC Bootcamp, there I have already demonstrated how you can make the invocation from the JavaScript, or how you can make the invocation from your Lightning component, right? So typically we go and use the fetch method there in the JavaScript whenever we have to go and invoke it, right? Or you can also get that invoked from the Apex as well. The recommendation here is whenever you have to do the integration, folks, you should always prefer the Apex over the Lightning web component, because being Apex, it's a more secured because it is available at the server side. But coming up to the implementation approach, you can either go for the external services, or you can also think about the Lightning component pages as well. In case both of these solutions does not work for you, then you can think about using the Apex triggers or the batch Apex, right? This is kind of a suboptimal approach, but again, Apex triggers, if you are invoking something, you have to go for the asynchronous approach only. Batch Apex, yes, you can get that invoked in a synchronous way, but again, batch Apex itself run in an asynchronous pattern. That's why I said it's a kind of a suboptimal solution where you have to think a lot, right? Practically, most of the times it is not possible, right? But sometimes business says that, okay, you do this invocation in the asynchronous way, but whatever the response that you are getting, you should go and update that response in the same transaction. If the business is agreed on those terms, right, then you can go for the Apex triggers and the batch Apex as well. But for that, business needs to agree that you can do that in the background via the asynchronous approach. But whatever the response that you are getting from the external system, that should be updated in the same transaction. Now, what all typical considerations that you should have whenever you are working on this kind of an integration pattern? Number one, about the time factor, because you are doing this integration in a synchronous way, right? Maximum configurable timeout that we can have in the Salesforce is the 120 seconds. If your transaction is taking 120 seconds or more than 120 seconds, then it will automatically be timed out and you will be hitting the governor limits here. So your complete transaction, whatever the business processing that you have to do, your API invocation, API response, passing that response and updating the record, everything should be done maximum within the 120 seconds. Another point here is the idempotency. What does it mean? For example, you have designed one custom UI. On that custom UI, if the user is clicking a button multiple times, the remote system must be able to track that duplicate message identifier to avoid creating the duplicate records as well. Okay, so your external system should be capable enough to track those duplicate messages. The third one here is the data volume. For this particular type of an integration, it has been recommended that you should have the less volume of data. Even your payload size should be as small as got, right? In case you are having a small payload or in case you are having a small response format, it is always recommended whenever you are working on the request and the reply pattern. In this particular image, I tried to summarize whatever we have discussed on the remote process invocation. Okay, so it is more a synchronous way of doing the integration. The recommended solution here is external services. This is the best fit, right? Apex callout, again custom option, but best fit in case this is not possible, where you will be invoking the Apex from the Lightning Web component, right? And the third one here is the asynchronous continuation. This is referred as the suboptimal or the, in case your other approaches are not working, then and then only you should go for this approach. We also discussed about the design guardrails, right? Idempotent design should is must. Transactional error handling must. Only commit the changes to the Salesforce after receiving the successful response from the remote system, right? And again, as you are doing the external or as you are doing the outbound integration, it is your responsibility that you are implementing the name credential, right? The external system should follow the OAuth principles as well. That is recommended, right? Or the two-way SSL to maintain the confidentiality and the integrity. We already discussed about what is OAuth 2.0 in detail in my other playlist. So in case you didn't check that out, you can check out that playlist as well. But I hope you guys got an idea what is request and reply pattern and how request and reply pattern works, and more importantly, when you should go for the request and the reply pattern. In the next video, we will try to explore another integration pattern.